Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay. Well, it is what it is. The merger is finally complete. The merger of the UFC with the WWE forming the new group TKO Holdings. It was announced this afternoon. We all knew it was coming. We all knew this was the day. Finally, after months and months, it was announced the day after WrestleMania that first of all, Endeavor had purchased it, and secondly, that they would be merging it with the UFC to form this massive sports entertainment conglomerate. And then yesterday, as I said in my previous video, we said goodbye to Vincent Kenny McMahon as the sole owner of the World Wrestling Federation, aka World Wrestling Entertainment, as being fully in charge. But today, on Wall Street, the New York Stock Exchange, two massive championship belts, one UFC's and the other the WWE's, and you had Mark Shapiro, Ari Emanuel, Paul Levesque, Dana White, Vince McMahon, and the representatives, as far as the stars were concerned, on their sides was Montez Ford and Bianca Belair. Wow, that's saying something. That's saying that Bianca Belair and Montez Ford, they're putting them basically as the faces of this new mega conglomerate company. I like Bianca Belair and also like Montez Ford. You know what I mean? But even I was shocked that they're putting them as the faces of the company. But hey, it is what it is. I guess Ari Emanuel sees some kind of uh, movie stardom maybe in Bianca Belair, thinking that she could transition from professional wrestling to maybe movies. I know Endeavor, formerly William Morris Entertainment, has a lot of represents a lot of movie stars and a lot of people out in Hollywood and has a lot of pull out in Hollywood. Obviously, Ari Emanuel has a lot of pull in other areas because he's the brother of Rahm Emanuel, former mayor of Chicago slash Barack Obama's chief of staff. So it's a huge thing. Nick Khan, of course, was there. This was huge, man. Like I said, there's never been any other merger in professional wrestling. WCW and WWF in 2001, ROH and AEW in 2022. It has been bigger than this. This was the biggest. You know what I mean? The person that looked a little unhappy, I would say, out of everybody there was Dana White. And I could kind of understand why Dana was a little unhappy in a way, if I'm looking at it from Dana's perspective. Because uh, money notwithstanding, if you're Dana White and you entered into the business of the UFC when he bought the company or part of the company, he and the Fertitta brothers in 2001, he set out to transform not only UFC as a company, but the entire image of MMA. Because MMA, when it started, when it came to this country in 1993 with Rorion Gracie and uh, Art Davies, the original owner of the UFC, before SEG bought it, it, it had a bad reputation. It had this reputation of being human cockfighting, no holds barred fighting, like a really dangerous sport. Even Vince McMahon himself, when he first came across it, in the early '90s, this was before he signed UFC legends like Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn. He himself even said, "Man, it's barbaric." You know what I mean? He had a very bad image of it and didn't want it to be associated in any sort of way with what he was doing, his business of being professional wrestling. But of course, as they gained more pay per view buys, especially in the late '90s, like I said, when they got into like the Dan Severn, Ken Shamrock feud, people around him, not necessarily him, Vince McMahon, but people around him uh, got more interested in the sport. But John McCain, former presidential candidate, uh, ran in 2000 and 2008, respectively, senator from Arizona. We all know who John McCain basically is. He helped put the kibosh on MMA in the late 90s. You know what I mean? Coined the phrase human cockfighting and got it banned in several states. It got to the point where they had to go to Dothan, Alabama just to hold a show because no other state would sanction them. And then when Dana White and the Fertitta brothers got into it, of course, they helped to modify the rules and they helped to legitimize it. And then it came around to, this was in 2001, it came around to 2005 when reality TV was all the rage and they were going to premiere their reality show, The Ultimate Fighter. And Spike TV, the executives at Spike TV at the time, Raw was on Spike TV. Raw had been on Spike TV since I think they left UFC in 2000. Because remember, Spike TV before it was called Spike TV, it was called the Nashville Network, and that's when ECW was on it. But anyway, uh, the executives of Spike TV asked Vince McMahon, does he mind this show, this Ultimate Fighter show, coming on after his wrestling, Monday Night Raw? He said, go ahead. He gave the go ahead. So if Vince McMahon had never given that go ahead, and it had never been an audience that bled over from Monday Night Raw, and then after that, The Ultimate Fighter, and then they had the first season of The Ultimate Fighter with Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner, that blood fest. You know what I mean? That got people reinvigorated into the UFC because people, um, after the late 90s, after Hoist Gracie retired, after Dan Severn retired, Chemo Leopold, all those guys, the early generations of the first UFCs, people kind of forgot about the UFC because it was hard to get a hold of. You had to know somebody that had the tapes, and the professional wrestling boom took place after 1996, and people got more into professional wrestling than UFC. And plus, when Mike Tyson got out of jail in 1995, and he started to knock people out again and started to be the Mike Tyson of old that he was in the early 90s, boxing got reinvigorated in the heavyweight division. And the light heavyweight division in boxing was tearing it up. So people kind of forgot about the UFC because wrestling and boxing had its renaissance. But in the 2000s, after that first season of The Ultimate Fighter, because of the rub they had from wrestling, they actually became more powerful than professional wrestling in 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, all those years. And Dana White struggled for many years to tell the public what MMA was and to separate MMA from its predecessors, both boxing and wrestling. So now that Endeavor has bought both companies and decided to merge the two, I think, uh, like I said, money notwithstanding, because Dana, um, you know, he's not on the board of directors anymore. He, like Paul Levesque, was kicked out of the board of directors, but he put his heart and soul into the UFC. You know what I mean? And when William Morris Entertainment bought it in 2016, they more than tripled the value because now it's worth like $12 billion. When he bought it, when they bought it, it was only like worth like 4 point something. You know what I mean? So Dana put his heart and soul into it. He originally, of course, we know Dana's story. He wanted to be a boxing promoter. He was chased out of Boston by the mob, and he went to Las Vegas. You know what I mean? That's when he met the Fertitta brothers, and he went to a Tito Ortiz fight, and he knew that he had to turn this thing around. He always has said that he admired Vince. You know, that he admired what Vince had done with professional wrestling, and I guess he kind of did because uh, you know, he did the exact same thing with MMA. He bought up all the other MMA promotions, bought up Strikeforce in 2011, bought the Pride organization, which was the original MMA organization, the OG MMA organization from Japan. You know, you know, and he bought up WEC the same way that Vince bought up WCW, ECW, and all the other wrestling territories. So anyway, I just wanted to make this short video. We got to see what the future holds for these two. Well, not these two. This one massive company. Remember, each one's rights deals, each one's TV rights deals are up. WWE's TV rights deal is up in 2026. UFC's one with ESPN, and that's their rights deal with Fox and with Peacock. And UFC's streaming rights deal is up in 2025. So we got to see what the future holds. But I'm saying this right now, guys, whoever gets a hold of of uh, this this conglomerate mega sports entertainment franchise will be the most successful streaming organization of all the streaming organizations, whether it's Disney Plus, whether it's Peacock, whether it's ESPN, uh, Amazon Prime, whomever it is. You know, I mean, this is massive because now you're not only getting the entire history of professional wrestling, like from eons. You're getting all of MMA, all the MMA organizations, all the pay-per-views, WrestleManias, all the monthly UFCs. You're getting it all, and I'm pretty sure the price tag is going to be astronomical as far as for the consumer. But the amount of content that they're going this mega company TKO is going to be putting out is tremendous. And the least of our worries, us as wrestling fans, we worry so much about creative. You know, like we saw the last Raw, and we saw Nia Jax come out and sit on Rhea Ripley's face, and we're like, oh shit, Rhea Ripley's push is being ruined. But at the same time, uh, that was the like, you know how they say in history the last sigh of the Moor. Well, that was Vince McMahon's last sigh. You know what I mean? Like that was his last ditch to do something with his company that he built with his bare hands and that his family built with their bare hands. You know, but I'm pretty sure Paul Levesque, Triple H, is still going to run the creative, and Vince's guiding hand is going to always be there as long as Vince is alive. And I know the UFC people, you know, UFC hardcore fans, you know, they're concerned. Well, um, is some of the fakery of wrestling going to creep into their product? You know, I'm pretty sure, you know, Ari Emanuel is going to keep uh, the two branches of TKO separate. I mean, I don't see them holding joint events. I don't see like uh, UFC 300 being on the same day location as the next WrestleMania. That's just not going to happen. They're just two different entities. You know what I'm saying? Like you could like peanut butter and jelly, and you could like fried chicken, but you don't have to like peanut butter and jelly together with fried chicken. You know what I'm saying? Like they're two different entities, and they're going to remain. They're going to remain two different. I mean, they're not two different entities. They're two different activities, and they're going to remain two different activities. There's no talk or scuttlebutt among any of the people in charge of this major conglomerate company that they're going to mix up. If anything, all that's really going to ever happen is like Mark Shapiro, uh, one of the presidents of TKO said, what you're really going to see is like when UFC guys retire and, you know, they don't want to keep putting their body through that kind of punishment, they're just going to transition over to wrestling. which is a lot easier because of its fake nature. You know what I'm saying? And what's gonna happen too with a lot of the fans is, okay, say you're a kid and you start off watching WWE, right? And then eventually, because the two products are one now, you're going to probably transition over to being a fan of the UFC. So they're going to be able to grow and harvest their consumer base. And for the stock purchasers, uh, of course, the stock is super high right now. So you know, it's the time to buy in because they're going to be making money hand over fist, especially like I said when it comes to the streaming rights. Streaming rights, when they start in 2020 in 2026, when WWE starts bidding and they start bidding for these streaming rights, man, everybody's going to give them whatever they want. Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, Peacock, whatever these streaming companies are going to give them whatever they want because this is massive. Over a billion fans between the two of them in multiple countries, between the two of these colossal organizations. Never has this happened in the history of sports. NFL and NBA don't hold. They're not trying to come together. Major League Baseball's not trying to come together with NBA or NFL, NHL. You know what I'm saying? But they made the right move here. You know what I mean? That's going to benefit all around. My thing is, uh, when it comes to a wrestling standpoint, is like the pay per views. You know what I mean? The pay per views, I'm telling you, that's going to be the only downside to it. The pay per view prices are going to probably go up. You know what I mean? Like, we've all been spoiled from $9.99 to $4.99 every month. You know what I mean? But we all remember we grew up when it was like $20, $30. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to shell a little bit more, but you're going to be getting more content. And let's just face it, wrestling fans know this already. I remember in the 2000s, I was streaming everything. I was downloading everything illegally. You know what I mean? So even if that does happen, that's what I'll continue to do. You know what I mean? Like, but what I think is going to happen is that's not going to. I believe that probably isn't going to happen because they know their economic base. You know what I mean? They know that their base, especially the wrestling fan, they know that their base is not mega rich. You know what I'm saying? So they're not going to raise their pay per view prices to an astronomical number, especially since by that time, by the time their TV rights go up, we would have been on this model of Peacock slash the WWE network for 10 years. You know what I'm saying? And we're already used to it. They grew up a generation on that. The generation, this generation is not going to be used to $20, $30, $40, 50, whatever dollars for a pay per view. And what's going to go up on the UFC side, what's going to increase on the UFC side, I think, of things is the productions. We see how WWE's productions are almost theatrical. You know what I'm saying? We see how their productions are very elaborate. So the theatrical showmanship side that the WWE brings to the table, that it's just like a marriage. One partner has one thing that they bring to the table. UFC has their legitimacy, their sports legitimacy that surrounds them, that Dana White helped to cultivate over the 30 years that UFC has. I mean, not 30 years that it has existed, but over the time that he's owned it, like the 22 years that he's been involved with it. He's helped to cultivate that sports image, and that's something, that kind of legitimacy is something that Vince has always wanted. But on Dana's side, on UFC's side, the kind of entertainment esque aura that surrounds the WWE could help benefit UFC. Like I said, the production, you know what I mean, and better TV shows. More elaborate TV shows. WWE's in the television business. They could give UFC some pointers with that. So um, it's very exciting time, the marriage between these two companies. It's like a marriage between two individuals. The two were each as individuals, and now they become one. It doesn't necessarily mean that each one loses their autonomy or what makes them them. It's just now one hand is washing the other. It's a very exciting time. Peace. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to see when my next video is coming out. And I apologize to you guys. I cut off the 1996 year in review because it was just too much for me. I didn't anticipate that I was covering WCW and WWF. Uh, the next year in review, I'm just gonna introduce WWF and leave WCW out, or just do WCW and WWF separately because it was a lot of content. It ran to like uh, 2.5 hours, and I was only in October. You know what I mean? So I know a lot of people were watching it. You know what I mean? A lot of people were tuning in, and they wanted me to see me do the end. And I apologize, to the subscribers. You know what I mean? But I just didn't anticipate that it would be that long. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna be breaking it up uh, in pieces, for you guys. But anyway, I'll continue to do more videos like that. I'll do the rest of 1996 because I do want to finish up on that. There's more I want to comment on. Um, for the fifth installment, I said the fourth installment because I'm like 1992 to 1996 was 4 years, but I remember it was actually the fifth installment of that series. And I do want to finish the series. I'm gonna end the series at 2001 when WCW purchased, when WWF purchased WCW. I'm not going to go into like the 2000s, the war with TNA, because I said it before plenty of times. I never watched TNA. I never really watched, excuse me, Ring of Honor. you know, what I'm and going back, going back to this UFC conversation, UFC, WWE, TKO Holdings conversation. The streaming service that I hope gets it is Disney, because that would put me at a sweet spot because I already have the Disney bundle, and I use Disney Plus to sometimes watch some Star Wars shows when I'm interested in whatever Star Wars shows. I have been watching a lot of the shows, since The Mandalorian went to shit, and sometimes I use them to watch some of the older Star Wars films. So if and some of like Boy Meets World, some classic sitcoms. So that would really put me in a sweet spot if they were to get a hold of the TKO package. You know what I'm saying? So that's the one I'm really hoping for. You know what I mean, that they go with. But obviously, but that's the one I'm really hoping for. Amazon Prime would be good too. We just gotta wait and see what streaming service they're gonna really go with. But you know, the future looks good, man. I wish I'd been on Wall Street today, though, when they had the two huge belts. I never really take pictures, but I would have took a picture right there in my wheelchair with the freaking two big belts, man. You know what I mean? Uh, you know, uh, right there in the middle with the two big belts. But I didn't know they were gonna do that today. If I'd have known, shit, I'd have taken Accessory out today and done that. You know what I mean? Like that would have been awesome, man. You know, writing a picture of the two big belts right there on Wall Street. But it's an amazing story, man. Especially for on the UFC side, for a sport that was banned in New York. It was banned in New York until 2016. UFC 206 was the first to my knowledge, when Mayor De Blasio, the old mayor of New York, signed off to legalize MMA in New York, and now they're being traded on the stock exchange. Amazing, amazing stuff. And it makes me think back to when WWE in 1999 first became publicly traded and how amazing that was. I mean, and now this, you know, like I said, on the creative side, it is what it is, man. Uh, you know, we don't like Nia Jax, but I think Nia Jax returning was the last thing on Vince McMahon's mind when it came to last night. I don't think he was thinking about that. He was probably up all night thinking about what's you know what's the future hold for his company, his family's company. And like I said, it was cool Bianca Belair was there. You know what I mean? Because they're obviously putting their faith in her. And I can hear it now. People didn't really say it, but I could kind of hear it implicitly that they were only putting Bianca Belair and Montez Ford up there as representatives because they were trying to fill some diversity quota because they're minorities. But hello, John Jones wasn't there, and he's the champion of the UFC, and he's a black guy. Um, Roman Reigns is Samoan. He wasn't up there. He's a champion of WWE. So it couldn't have been about a diversity quota when it came to this. This was something else. These were the representative for the UFC on the UFC side was DC Cormier, and he's retired. So, like the people they chose to represent them were it's kind of a weird menagerie as far as the fighters and the wrestlers. You know what I mean? But because to me, I would think you would have your champions. You know what I mean? You would have, uh, you know, John Jones there, or you have Kamara Usman, or Seth Rollins, or Roman Reigns. You wouldn't just have uh, uh, random people. One guy that's retired, and one girl, and a guy one guy that's basically a mid carder, and one girl is Bianca is a star. You know what I'm saying? But she's not the champion right now. Io Sky and Rhea Ripley are. So I don't know. I think they just chose anybody out of a hat. Hey, anybody want to visit Wall Street and be there for the launching of our new company on the stock exchange? And everybody just put their hand up like, oh yeah, I'll take a trip to New York. I think that's what they did. Anyway, peace, guys. Love you.